Chapter 5, Christ Consciousness. The dreams have been circling me like sparks, each one drifting toward a forge I did not yet recognize. Exile, loss, surrender, they were never ruin, but raw metal. What I mistook for silence was only the sound of bellows, drawing breath to feed the flame. And now I see it. God has been the silversmith all along. He holds me steady above the fire, not to destroy me, but to refine me. His hands do not tremble, his eyes never leave the surface. Every wound, every rejection, every grief rises like dross and burns away until what remains is clearer, sharper, truer. He does not pull me from the heat too soon. He waits, patient and unyielding, until the moment comes, until the molten surface stills and his own reflection shines back from within me. Then I know, the fire was never my enemy. It was God's tool. This was not punishment, this was preparation. The refining has always been the point. And now, marked by flame, I step into the act of fire itself, where the image of Christ is no longer something I chase, but something rising from within me. This is Act 4, the man on fire. The scene opens like a caricature, vivid, colorful, exaggerated in a way that borders on comical, like the universe itself is mocking the weight of what it's about to show me. From above, through God's eyes, I see a hillside stacked with crooked little houses, each one leaning against the next like tired teeth. There I am below, darting from doorway to doorway, a woman without roots, always trying to start again. Each time I press my palms to a new threshold, faces at the door sigh and shake their heads. This isn't for you. I'm sorry, you have to leave. A door shuts, then another, and another. The repetition becomes farce, then ache. My shoulders round under the weight of it. My steps become small. And then the dream folds again, a dream within a dream, and offers me snapshots instead of a story. Symbolic more than literal, but I recognize every frame. First, a blue door with chip paint. I'm holding a ring of keys too heavy for the lock. The number on the frame changes every time I look. 3, 8, 11, as if I'm skipping tracks on a record that won't settle. The door fades, replaced by the clutter of transition. Boxes stacked like altars labeled in black marker. Kitchen, keepsakes, maybe. The maybe boxes multiply. Keys spill from my hand and scatter like puzzle pieces across the floor, dragging me forward, brassy and toothy, none of them fitting the door that I'm standing in front of. But I gather them anyway. Time itself joins the drift. A calendar page rips on its own and skitters away. I don't chase it because I'm already in another hallway. The hillside tilts, pulling me deeper, where the fragments sharpen into memory. A yard filled with my belongings in the rain. Shirts plaster themselves to the grass, a baby blanket soaked and heavy. I throw my life into the back of an S10 truck, garbage bags for luggage, and drive away without looking back, because there is never time to look back. And then another seed bleeds through, heavier than rain. A front porch with weathered boards and February breath. A U-Haul idles in the driveway like a countdown. I am 20 and pregnant, standing in the doorway of an emptied house, begging while a man methodically locks the last door. Each turn of the key is a nail in a coffin I don't want to climb into. Please don't go, I plead, voice cracking and hand shaking. I can't do this alone. She needs you. I need you. He doesn't answer. His face is stone, his body mechanical. Light switch, lock, step. He moves through the house as though my words are ghosts brushing past him. By the time we reach the porch, my body revolts. Nausea swells into my throat. I sink to my knees, pressing my cheek to the cold slats of wood as bile rises. I turn my head and spill everything over the edge. Tears and snot mix with vomit. It is messy, humiliating, and utterly human. He pauses only long enough to step over me. One stride, then two, down the stairs and across the yard. He doesn't bend. He doesn't break stride. He doesn't even look back. The truck door slams, the engine growls, and then he is gone. I stay there, collapsed on the porch, the boards pressing ridges into my cheek until the shape of abandonment imprints itself into me by touch. The February air cuts through my thin clothes, but the deeper cold is inside, hollow, cavernous. By the time I rise, I am not the same woman. Something has calcified. I am calloused to the core, stripped down to a single vow. The only person that matters from this point forward is the little girl inside me. She is all that I have, and she is all that I will ever need. The porch dissolves, but the ache carries me into another threshold, a room with peeling paint and too many roommates. The two men I live with are dragging me out of bed when grief would have swallowed me whole. Morning sickness buckets by the couch. Ultrasound photos taped to a fridge that is full of beer and liquor bottles, barely room for my oversized pickle jar. Their laughter in the middle of my shame. Their friendship was a tether that kept me from floating away. From laughter to light, the thread pulls on. 2 lanterns flicker in the distance, steady and warm. Week after week, they set bundles on a doorstep. Milk, diapers, wipes, tiny clothes folded like prayers. Grandparents become a lighthouse I didn't even know how to ask for. But even light has shadows. A garage at night, a beer in a solo cup thrown in my face, his baby strapped in the car seat behind me. I know then that I can't stay, but I also know leaving will be another round of garbage bags and nowhere to land. And then silence, colder than any slammed door. A doctor's room dissolves into vision. The fetal monitor doesn't beep. It vanishes into silence, leaving a single white feather drifting downward and weightless, turning until it disappears. I'm sitting there alone, folded into a thin paper gown, the chair beneath me too wide and the room too empty. My body ended what my heart had already been too exhausted to hold, and when the words left the doctor's mouth, the flood came, not just grief, but something sharper and stranger. Relief. Relief that I wasn't bound by a vow that I never wanted. Relief that I wouldn't have to commit to a marriage that had already broken me before it ever began. But then came the grief, just as sharp and just as consuming, the ache of loss, of a heartbeat stilled too soon. The two emotions slammed into each other like waves in opposite directions. Grief crashing, relief crashing, both so strong and so overwhelming that in the end, they canceled each other out. What was left wasn't peace, but numbness. A blankness that spread like frost, leaving me suspended between sorrow and mercy, unable to feel either of them fully. Each flashback fades into the next, the hillside gathering them all like broken shingles tumbling down the slope, until I see myself near the bottom, small, raw, and barely held together. Waiting for me at the bottom of the hill is a figure, an old acquaintance who feels more like a memory than man. He lays a hand on my shoulder and introduces me to someone else, a massive man named Jake. Jake fills the space with a wall of air, and without a word, he pulls back his fist and delivers a single crushing punch. It lands square in my face. The blow doesn't just split skin and bone. It fractures everything fragile I've been carrying. Identities I tried to cobble together, masks that I'd stitched on, lies I whispered just to keep moving. All of it splinters under that one strike. I stumble away, bleeding and confused, running to hide, trying to stitch myself back together. But the dream doesn't leave me there, in ruin. Instead, firelight replaces the wreckage. The flames lick the dark like an ancient ceremony. Across from me sits an ancestor, Native American, strong yet gentle, his presence steady as stone. He tells me his name is Charlie. His voice carries like river rock wisdom, words poured through generations straight into my marrow. He doesn't scold. He doesn't even soothe. He cuts it clean. Lacey, he says, don't look back in anger. See it for what it was. Not trauma, but training. Every wound carved strength into you. Every loss stripped you down so that God could build you back unshakable. You weren't being destroyed. You were being forged. Now you carry the fire not just for yourself, but to light the way for others. Charlie leans closer, his eyes glinting like coals. His voice softens, but the weight of it presses into me like a hand to the chest. God has a much better life planned for you than the one you've been clinging to. Let go and trust Him. Stop trying to control where the road bends. Stop grasping at doors that were never meant to hold you. If you let Him lead, He will take you places your hands could never build, your mind could never imagine. You've been surviving long enough, Lacey. Now it's time to live. Then he points down. At my feet sits a small, weathered bag, its seams splitting, stuffed with cash. I know instantly what it means. The cars, the house, the belongings, all the weight I once surrendered when I walked away from my ex-husband. The bag hums with false security, tethering me to a life that's already gone. Charlie's gaze sharpens. Let it burn. You don't need any of it. My hands tremble as I lift the bag. It isn't just leather and bills, it's the weight of everything I had fought for, scraped for, clawed my way toward. For the first time in my life, I had a home, a front door with my name on the deed, rooms I had painted, floors I had scrubbed, proof that I had built something from nothing. And now I was being asked to throw it away, to leave with empty hands, to walk out like it had all been meaningless. I clutched the bag tighter, nails biting into the hide. My chest burns with anger, with grief, and with doubt. Surely this isn't God. Surely this is a trick. The devil loves to steal, and what greater theft than to rip away the one place I finally earned myself? Tears blur the firelight, and I shake my head, whispering, "How could you ask this of me? How could you want me to start over again?" And for a heartbeat, the old reflexes flare, the part of me that fought for every scrap, every inch of space that I could call mine, the walls, the furniture, the car keys, the illusion of a life built, secured, and earned. But even as I clutch it, the truth floods me. To keep it, I'd have to fight tooth and nail. Courts, papers, lawyers, months, years maybe, of being dragged through mud by the man who took so much already. The thought alone makes my stomach knot. And in that flash, it becomes clear. My future with God, my peace, my calling, they're worth infinitely more than the scraps I'd been battling for. If God was offering me freedom on the other side of surrender, why would I chain myself back to rubble? My grip loosens, not from defeat, but from decision. I don't whisper any more arguments. I don't bargain. I simply turn to Charlie and nod once, sharp and final. Without another breath, I swing the bag into the fire. The leather hisses, the seams split, the bills curl and blacken. Smoke coils upward like incense, like something sacred being released. My hands are empty, but my heart is lighter, my peace rushing back in like water. But the pit doesn't dim. It roars brighter. Flames leap high, white and gold, swallowing the false treasure and transmuting it into something I never expected. Where the bag dissolves, the fire reshapes. Ashes scatter upward and then gather, forming shapes, grapes swelling on a vine, wheat bending heavy with harvest, a river spilling into a field of green. It isn't money anymore. It's provision. Not the kind that fits in a wallet, but the kind that sustains a soul. Charlie's voice rolls through the fire. Do you see? What you release in fear, he restores in abundance. The world offers currency that burns. God offers provision that multiplies. You don't need to grasp, you only need to trust. Then his eyes fix on me, deeper than the fire itself. And you, Lacey, you have a story to tell. I frown, caught off guard. What story? The one written across your scars, he answers without hesitation. The story of how Jesus saved you, healed you, and restored what you lost in the fire. That story is the light you'll carry. It will guide others who are stumbling in the dark, wondering if God can rescue them too. As he speaks, the fire flares brighter, white and gold tongues rising higher than the trees. My heart pounds, not with fear, but with recognition, as if some part of me had been waiting for this. Charlie leans forward, his hand steady as stone, and plucks a coal from the fire. It glows, not red, but violet and blue, alive with impossible color, yet it does not consume his skin. He holds it out to me. Take it. My breath catches. Won't it burn me? Only if you refuse it, he says, voice low and even. This is not fire that destroys, it is fire that anoints. The same fire that forged your scars will now fuel your calling. Hold it, and you will never forget. What tried to break you became the very light that you carry. With trembling hands, I reach out. The ember rests in my palms, warm but not searing, alive but not dangerous. Its glow pulses once, twice, and then seeps into my skin, sinking beneath the surface until I feel it thrumming in my chest like a second heartbeat. Charlie leans back, his silhouette framed in the blaze. Now you are marked, not ruined, not rejected. The fire that scarred you has made you a storyteller, and every word you speak of his saving will carry sparks to light the dark for others. I stare down at my hands, still tingling with the ember's glow. The weight of what he's just told me presses in, both holy and unbearable. My voice cracks as I whisper, "But how do I write a story I can't even see? I'm too close to it. I can't see it with my eyes." Charlie nods slowly, like he's been waiting for this question. The firelight reflects in his eyes as though he carries the flame inside him too. That's why God gives you the dreams. Each one is a bird's eye view, a map stitched from heaven's vantage. He's showing you your story the way that he sees it, not the way you lived it crawling on the ground. Your part is to trust the view he gives you and speak it back to the world. My throat tightens. I clutch my arms around myself, trying to hold together the tremor in my chest. And what if I can't do it? What if I fail? Charlie doesn't flinch. He leans forward, the fire throwing his shadow long behind him, his voice steady as stone. Failure only comes when you walk away from the fire. As long as you stay here, close to him, close to the flame, you cannot fail. Will it cost you? Yes. It may cost you comfort. It may cost you company. To succeed in this, you will have to isolate for a time. Be dedicated to your purpose. If that means moving away, stepping out from everything familiar to be free of distraction, then you must. And suddenly, the truth settles heavy but sure in my bones. Starting over, moving again, being alone, that's nothing new for me. It's the only rhythm I've ever known. Packing boxes, walking away, setting my life down in garbage bags on one porch after another. I've been in training for this all along, even when I didn't know it. I lift my chin, the firelight painting my face in bronze. How could I refuse him now? I whisper. I've been doing this for men who never stayed, for houses that never held me, for futures that never lasted. If God is the one asking, then how could I not? This is the one move that matters. Charlie smiles, the kind of smile that feels both proud and ancient. Now you see it. You thought you were wondering, Lacey, but you were being prepared. Every uprooting, every exile, every lonely night was your rehearsal. You already know how to begin again. Now you'll do it with purpose. You only have to be willing, he says. The one who gave you the story will give you the strength to tell it. You've carried yourself this far by grit alone. Now you must learn to be carried by him. That's the only way forward. Just as he finished speaking, the fire cracked open like a mouth, roaring louder as if it had been waiting for this. Sparks leapt skyward, and in their dance I saw my past consumed and remade. The U-Haul didn't idle in the driveway anymore. It transformed into a blazing chariot, wheels glowing, carrying me away, not as someone abandoned, but as someone commissioned. The yard strewn with my belongings dissolved into embers, the soaked baby blanket lifting on the heat, rising like a banner instead of a loss. The garbage bags that had once marked me as rootless burst apart in the flames, spilling not clothes or scraps, but radiant light, each bundle becoming a lantern. The lanterns drifted upward one by one until the whole hillside shimmered with their glow, and in the flicker of that vision I saw it clearly. Every rejection, every slammed door, every move in the night had been training. Every loss had been fuel, every exile had been a step toward this fire. I whispered it out loud, barely able to breathe. All this time, I thought I was being stripped down to nothing. Charlie's gaze held me steady and unyielding, like the mountain itself was speaking through him. You were, but not to leave you empty, to leave you ready. You've been carrying fire your whole life, and now it's yours to wield. The flames flared again, and in them I saw a road, stone steps rising out of ash, each one lit by the lanterns of my own past. What I thought were ruins had become rungs. What I thought was punishment had been preparation. Something inside me snapped, not in despair, but in resolve. Starting over wasn't new to me. It was the only thing I'd ever known. If God was asking me to begin again, to walk this illuminated road for him, how could I refuse? I had been trained for it in every fire, every exile, and every loss. I stood taller, shoulders squared against the blaze. My voice came steady this time. Then let's go. I'm ready. And the fire answered, surging higher, painting the night gold. Charlie's eyes glowed with the reflection of it, steady and sure. He leaned closer, his voice low but heavy as earth itself. Make your home God's home, he said. Do that, and no matter where you are, it will feel like home. It won't matter if you're in a cabin, a borrowed room, or a house you have to leave again. If He dwells there, you'll never be without belonging. You'll never be without shelter. The words struck like flint against stone, sparking something that felt older than me, like generations of wandering had led to this truth. Home wasn't wood and nails. Home wasn't a door that could be locked against me, or a porch where someone could step over me and drive away. Home was presence. Home was God, and if I built my dwelling on Him, I would never be rootless again. The firelight deepened, every flame licking higher as if eager to devour the night. Charlie leaned back, the glow painting his strong features in molten gold. He had said what needed saying, and I knew it. The silence between us wasn't empty, it thrummed with the finality of truth landing where it belonged. He stood slowly, movements deliberate, and brushed his hands together as though sealing the conversation. Then he placed one calloused palm on my shoulder, the weight of it grounding me and lifting me all at once. He leaned in then, eyes catching mine with a gravity that pinned me in place. And hear me now. Me and all those who came before you, we are proud of you. Proud of the fire you've carried, proud of the battles you've fought, proud of the way that you still rise. My breath broke. I wasn't just being told, I was being seen. Not for my scars, not for my stumbles, but for the courage it had taken to keep walking. You're ready, he said simply. Not ruined. Ready. The words rang like a stamp, like the closing of a sacred scroll. He stepped back into the shadows where flame met dark. For a moment, the edges of him blurred, light flickering through his form until he looked less like a man and more like a memory of one. Sparks spiraled upward, and with them, Charlie seemed to dissolve, his figure unraveling into ember and ash carried skyward like smoke returning to the stars. But his voice still lingered steady and sure, woven through the crackle of fire and the hum of night. Make your home God's home. Do that, and you'll never be without one. I was alone by the fire now, but not alone at all. His absence left no hollow, only a mantle, only a charge. When I woke, the dream clung to me like smoke in my hair. It stayed, it lived in me. 6 months passed before that thread pulled taut. I was sitting with my dad, conversation meandering the way it sometimes does, through weather, errands, nothing of weight, and then, almost offhand, he said something that stopped me cold. You know, I wish I could have met my grandfather, he said. Everyone always told me he was the most faithful man they'd ever known. Grandma used to say she'd never met a man closer to God than him. We'd all be lucky to have that kind of relationship with the Lord. I blinked, my chest tightened. What was his name? I asked, though I already knew what was coming. Charlie, he said, casual as if it were nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was thunder rolling through my ribs. We had never once spoken of my great-grandfather before, not in all my years. Yet here it was, Charlie. The very name the dream had given me, the man who had sat across from me at the fire, who had spoken the river rock wisdom, who had told me not to look back in anger. It wasn't just a dream, it was inheritance. It was God reminding me that I was not wandering alone, but walking a path carved long before me, lit by the fire my great-grandfather had carried, the same one I had been told, in a dream, that I now carried. At the time of writing, this stream is 15 months old, yet it has not faded. It lingers with the weight of something more than memory, alive and insistent, like an ember that refuses to cool. I carry it still, as though its meaning keeps unfolding in layers, each month drawing me deeper into its truth. The dream opens in my kitchen. A plain cardboard box sits on a bar stool at the island. Inside, gray, dull, lifeless matter, like a heart that forgot how to beat. It isn't just a box, it's me. I hover over it, doting. I love it fiercely, though I can't name it. I whisper promises. I'll feed you. I'll figure you out. I won't leave you. But I'm not actually nourishing it. And then something shifts. My sight flickers, and I see not through my own eyes, but through God's. He is watching as Jesus stands next to the bar stool, keeping vigil over me, the lifeless goo. For months he has been here, and I watch it all unfold with a slow reverence. Jesus sings to me, not grand hymns, but quiet lullabies only heaven knows. He dances with the box, slow and patient, circling like the earth around the sun, letting joy drip like honey into a space that's only known silence. When I am too exhausted to stir, he lays beside the box, head level with mine, breathing soft warmth into what looks dead. When I curl deeper into myself, he tells me jokes, the kind that makes the corners of my soul twitch with the memory of laughter. Sometimes he doesn't even speak, he just watches, waiting and loving. And then the dreams begin. He takes me on small, magical journeys, not away from the box, but through it. Inside my sleep, he pulls open curtains of sky, leads me through fields of impossible flowers, and into places where light bends and time folds. I see colors I don't know the names of. I taste water sweeter than any I've drunk awake. Each night he strings another clue, another breadcrumb, another glimmer of life for me to follow back to him. It is a scavenger hunt across my subconscious, a divine courtship disguised as puzzles, intrigue, and mystery. He knows my soul craves riddles and maps, so he leaves them for me like notes under a door. This is Jesus healing me in the language my heart understands. I am the goo in the box. I am the heart learning to beat again, and I am also the witness watching Jesus breathe life back into me, note by note, dream by dream, until the gray begins to tremble with color. Even when I, still in the dream, drift away from the kitchen into the noise of real life, he stays. His hands rest lightly on the box as though it's a living creature. His thumbs trace gentle circles on the cardboard like he's rubbing warmth back into frostbitten skin. At first, nothing happens. The gray matter inside remains dull, limp, heavy as wet clay. But then I see it, a pulse, barely there, like a shy flicker beneath the surface, a heartbeat that forgot it was allowed to beat. Jesus hums something ancient and low, and the air changes. The kitchen light bends, softens, and color begins to creep into the goo. Not a flood, but a trembling thread. A faint violet glow, then a filament of blue, then a breath of rose, each hue curling like smoke through the lifeless mass. I watch through his eyes as he lifts the box gently, tilting it toward himself. His own light spills across it, seeping into every crease. The goo quivers, pulling toward him like a tide to the moon. He keeps singing, he keeps waiting. And then, slowly, impossibly, the shape begins to rise. First like dough rising in warmth, then like a cocoon trembling before the butterfly breaks free. The gray becomes translucent, shot through with veins of living color, violet, indigo, and gold. A glow from within, soft but sure, pushing outward until the whole box is lit from the inside. The cardboard edges can't contain it anymore. Tiny seams split. Light leaks out like water through the cracks. He doesn't force it, he lets it happen. "I'm here," he whispers to the goo inside the box. "You can come back now. You can live." And then the goo breathes. Really breathes. Its first inhale shudders through the kitchen like a gust. I feel it through both sets of eyes, the witness and the one being healed. It's my breath, my heartbeat, my soul. Color floods the box until it looks nothing like the dull mass. It's alive. He sets the glowing shape gently on the counter. No fanfare, no sermon, just a quiet knowing. This is what he's been doing all along, healing me piece by piece, night by night, not with the flash of instant perfection, but with a steady, intimate courtship, a divine scavenger hunt that led me back to my own life. And as I watch him lean against the counter, smiling softly at the glow he's coaxed from nothing, I understand. He was keeping vigil over me. The glow grows so intense it spills through the seams of the box like a dawn breaking through shuttered windows. Cardboard curls back from the edges, corners sag and melt like wax, and the whole thing begins to unfold without a single touch. He steps back just enough to give space, but never breaks eye contact with the light inside. His smile is steady, quiet, and proud, the way you smile at a child who's about to take her first steps. Inside, I'm trembling. I can feel the container loosening around me. My pulse isn't a flicker anymore, it is a drum. My breath comes deeper, steadier, pulling in his song, his warmth, and his light. The walls that held me, grief, shame, exhaustion, and all the years of just surviving start falling away. They don't explode, they dissolve, softly, easily, like fog when the sun finds it. I I push against the cardboard, and it tears like paper. Light gushes out. Then, with one last shudder, the box splits open, and there I am. Not gray anymore, not goo, standing and breathing. My skin glows with colors I've never seen in waking life, violet streaked with gold, blue running like living water beneath the surface. My own body feels lighter, taller, and more whole. I step out onto the kitchen floor, bare feet on cool tile, blinking as if I've been underground for a lifetime. Everything looks different, even the air has depth and hue. I look down at the box behind me, a simple empty shell burned out from the inside like an old chrysalis. He reaches out his hand, not to pull, but to welcome. "You're ready," he says. When my fingers touch his, it's not a jolt, but a steady current, like a river carrying me somewhere I've always belonged. I realized then that every night of him sitting beside that box, every song and every whisper, every dream that felt like a puzzle or a scavenger hunt, it wasn't random, it was a weaving. It was him bringing me back to life cell by cell until I could walk out of the box on my own. The kitchen flickers, the bar stool fades. I'm still holding his hand when the dream dissolves into a soft white. I'm now sitting poolside, sun warm on my shoulders. A man waits in the shallow end, steady, with hands open. A little girl, curls bouncing, toes curling over the lips, shouts, "Catch me, Daddy!" And before he can answer, she's already running, launching herself with absolute abandon. He catches her easily. She squeals, wriggles, scrambles back to leap again. She never doubts the catching. Jesus sits beside me, feet in the water, smiling with that father joy that doesn't need words. It's a living parable. Faith isn't the absence of risk, it's the memory of who waits at the impact. The commandment and the promise etch themselves into me. Leap Lacey. Trust me like she trusts him. It was a glimpse of a home, beautiful, comfortable, and alive with belonging. Overhead, words carried like prayer woven into the air. They were spoken with passion and conviction about the goodness of God in our lives, but there was something softer braided into it too, a tone only intimacy can give. It was as if every testimony about God's faithfulness doubled as a love letter to the life they had built. And while the voice filled the atmosphere, below it played another sermon, quieter but just as holy. God was in the pool with the child version of me, catching her every leap, her laughter ringing out like hallelujahs disguised as giggles. She hurled herself at him with the kind of abandon only trust can teach, and he met her every time, steady, laughing, unsure. I sat with my notebook open, pen moving across the page. Writing had always been my way of praying, of testifying, of ministering in the language God had given me. And here it was, matched with preaching, the written word and the spoken word running side by side like twin streams feeding the same river. The dream showed me balance without saying a word. Ministry doesn't have to starve intimacy. Calling doesn't have to cancel home. Instead, they can braid together. The sermons overhead, my words on the page, my childlike laughter between them, three voices harmonizing into one song of belonging. It was more than a house, more than companionship. This was home, and it was ours. And then just as suddenly, I was pulled back into my kitchen. The box was gone now. In its place, standing near the ottoman, was a man glowing as though lit from fire within. His confidence was quiet but unshakable. His love radiated like warmth from a hearth. His stability, his strength, it filled the room. But the longer I looked, the more I realized this was no ordinary glow. His presence electrified the air itself. My skin prickled, every hair on my arm standing upright. He gleamed like a stained glass window set ablaze from the inside, but not fractured with colors. He was pure gold, liquid fire, brilliance contained in a form that I could almost recognize. His radiance was singular and whole, a brilliance that felt both untouchable and impossibly near. Fire without smoke, power without threat. He was both the storm and the stillness after it. And yet, even in that brilliance, he chose to sit down, lowering himself so I wouldn't be overwhelmed, though his very being still thundered through my spirit. And then, the wall of my apartment split open. Stone and river and sky poured inside, nature itself pushing through plaster and drywall. A stream wound across the floor, rocks settling where carpet had been, pebbles tumbling into place as though they belonged there all along. A bridge rose over the current, simple and strong. He looked at me and said, "Lacey, you helped with this. This is Christ consciousness." At his feet sat a single dull stone, the same gray lifelessness of the box of goo. He nudged it with his toe, and suddenly it burst into color, an otherworldly violet, vibrant beyond anything I've ever seen on earth. Then the two stones beside it lit up their own unique hues, then the ones touching those, and then the line stretched out like a river of fire, each stone soul glowing awake until the whole stream was alive with impossible color. The sight was breathtaking. These weren't just rocks, they were souls. And as I watched, I felt creation itself exhale through my living room walls, reminding me we are not separate from what God has made. Genesis tells us we were made stewards of His creation, caretakers of the garden He placed us in. Yet we exploit, destroy, and forget. In this dream, God showed me again that His home is our home. Our connection to nature is our connection to Him. I didn't realize at the time how uncanny that moment would later feel. 14 months after that dream, I opened the Bible and read Ezekiel's vision for the first time, almost by accident. A passage that described glory and throne light and living things with a language that stopped me cold. The words on the page mirrored the scene I'd stood in, right down to the sense of brilliant, contained fire. That wasn't a Bible study conclusion or a tidy theological box I'd put myself into. It was the slow, electric recognition that what I'd experienced in my small living room had been recorded in the scriptures, long before I ever knew the words. It changed the way I held the whole thing. Suddenly, the dream wasn't about personal imagery or private consolation. It felt like an echo of something ancient and true, a moment where God used light and language from Scripture to meet me where I actually lived. It was one more nudge that the story wasn't mine alone to tell. And the glowing stones, these weren't arbitrary colors or stones at all. I recognized their description in Ezekiel's vision of the throne of God, described as radiant as lapis lazuli, the very foundation of His kingdom. In this dream, I understood we are those precious stones. We are His image bearers, His most beloved creations, lying at His feet, not dull, not lifeless, but meant to shine with colors never seen on earth. The palette was endless. Colors that I cannot name, shades I've never glimpsed awake, each soul unique, each radiant in its own way, and yet their collective glow was greater still, like watching eternity breathe. The sight was so holy I could barely stand to witness it. I finally whispered, stunned, "I did that? No way." He only smiled.